Well, hi, folks. I'm Chris Dorr. I'm the director here for the North Carolina Firearms Coalition. And today, in his happy shirt, I am joined by our political director here, Rob Nisley. And
What's up, everybody?
We wanted to give you guys an update on where the gun bills are at the General Assembly in Raleigh, and to give you guys some breaking good news about one of the pro-gun bills that we're working on, in addition to the other one, the permitless carry bill. So with that, let's just jump right into it. Rob, what is on your shirt, by the way?
So this is these are AR-15s, and actually I haven't really studied the
Like
foliage,
like
but it
a
looks like
remake
some
of the Magnum PI
yeah,
Boogaloo shirts.
yeah.
I gotta upgrade my shirts here. But and anyway, so first and foremost, what we've been talking about a lot and probably the most here at the North Carolina Firearms Coalition is the permitless carry bills. We've done videos on this before. We've done emails on it. What's different about these bills, Rob, in comparison to what we call constitutional carry? What's the big difference?
Well, the big difference is that these bills, as they're currently introduced, they allow you to carry a concealed handgun for self-defense, but they do not allow you, like a lot of states do, to carry other types of legally owned and possessed weapons. So that's the main distinction here.
Yeah.
It
only maintains like the current duty to notify.
Yes. Yeah, it's basically, in my opinion, it's basically just to let people basically continue the same system that's currently in place, except no permit required. That's kind of how I view these pieces of legislation.
So obviously it's not like the General Assembly in Raleigh is prone to passing large quantities of gun bills. And so we made the decision early on to jump on board with this legislation after meeting with like Representative Kidwell, with the folks over at GRNC, because this bill, both the House version, which is House Bill 5, and the Senate bill, which is Senate Bill 50, both of these versions don't have any active steps backwards. I think there's one little minor thing in the House version that's going to be addressed in committee here momentarily. But so it's actual steps forward without taking any steps backwards. That's first and foremost the number one qualification for any bill to get our support to be pushing forward. So, and then a lot of people make the argument or make the case that once we get this passed, we can come right back and work on expanding to concealed weapons licenses. Because, Rob, if there's one thing that ticks me off, it's the idea that government can decide which lawfully owned firearms you can use to defend yourself or your family. I find the idea preposterous. I despise it. And for these government bureaucrats to sit there and pretend that they have the ability or the right or the authority, when you consider what the Second Amendment is all about.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it's all about
it's a restriction on them.
Yeah, it's about preserving our right to keep and bear arms and not allowing the government to be able to regulate that.
Yeah.
So that's
So that's the argument that some of these guys are making. I don't necessarily think it's wrong. And I spoke with Paul Vallone about it at Grassroots North Carolina. And you know what? We're just all getting behind this permitless carry bill to get it pushed over the line. So what's the latest on that, Rob? Where's the House version? Where's the Senate version? And what's the path forward here?
Yeah, so on the House side, House Bill 5, it was introduced it says it was introduced on January 29th. So it's been a while. And it was sitting in the House Rules Committee for nearly 2 months, or a month and a half. It wasn't actually. They didn't actually bring it up in Rules Committee and actually refer the bill to an actual committee that's going to hear it and vote on it and stuff like that until just a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Which, obviously we had been putting pressure on that committee. You guys have been putting pressure on that Rules Committee to make sure that happens, letting them know, like, hey, we need this to happen. We need this bill to move. Because the other
Thank
thing
you for that. Thank you for that, by the way, for everybody who takes action once you get an email from us and send that message or make that phone call. That's grassroots power right there. That's why these people decide to move legislation or take action. It's when they're hearing from their districts back home. So thank you so much for caring enough to take action, because some people don't.
Yeah, and and then I'll just jump right over to the Senate bill real quick. The Senate Bill 50, which is a near identical version, just introduced on the Senate side. That bill is still in the Senate Rules Committee, which is the Senate committee that refers bills to other committees that are more topic specific. And it's still in that committee. It hasn't been moved out of there yet. But the really important thing to keep in mind too, folks, is that we have what's called a crossover deadline here in North Carolina, which means that there's a certain date by which a bill must pass one chamber and get sent to the other one in order to make its way fully through the process. And that deadline is May the 8th, so it's coming up real quick. So that's why it's so important that you guys have been taking action on the Rules Committee. We're going to have some more actions for you here to contact your specific state legislators, and also to hammer the committees that these bills are going to get referred to get this rolling and passed into one or the other chamber by May the 8th, so we can keep this rolling and actually get this done, this General Assembly.
Yeah. A lot of people have been asking us, what's the game changer this time around? Because everybody has historically known that this guy, I'm going to pop him right into the middle. This is the leader of the Senate, Phil Berger. Historically, Phil here has been kind of an obstacle to some of the gun bills passing, constitutional carry last time around, and other gun bills. Definitely a heel dragger, but this time it's a game changer. There's a different environment right now because Phil Berger here is a co-sponsor of Senate Bill 50,
right?
Which means that he's signaling to the entire state it's time to move this legislation.
And if I remember right, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Mr. Berger here was in the media also not too long ago, actually saying that he supports it and wants it through this time.
Yeah, and that's like a wind change when they officially go to the media and start talking like this. It means that the environment is getting to the point where they can no longer hold it back, or they have decided that they're going to just push it all the way across the finish line. And let's jump over to this guy here, Keith Kidwell. This has been a very popular name in gun politics in North Carolina for a number of years. I'll tell you something. I like most pro-gun legislators, but I don't like Keith here for one reason, and that is he's a little bit taller than me. I'm 6'2", and I get close to this guy, and he's a couple inches taller than me. I'm like, daggum, how come he had to be a little bit bigger? But I like to be the big guy in the room. But Keith is the big guy in the room, and he's pushing real hard on House Bill 5 here, and has been pushing for constitutional carry or permitless carry for a number of years. So that's kind of like the legislative leaders that are taking this bull by the horns here. But so the House bill, Rob, what'd you say? It's in Judiciary 2 committee now?
That's correct, yes. Which is actually, it's actually interesting. That was the same committee that last General Assembly had constitutional carry in it and totally butchered it. Didn't they? They added training requirements and all kinds of other nonsense, and then sent it to the floor. So that committee has a history with this legislation, so it'll be interesting to see what happens this time.
Yeah, I think there was some wheeling and dealing going on last time to try to get that bill across the finish line, and then that whole thing kind of backfired. I don't think we're going to get in that position again. I've been talking with Keith Kidwell about it. I don't think that stuff's going to rear its head again. And I think we're going to have a clean permitless carry bill coming out of the House chamber. So, folks, with this video, I'm just going to call it out right now. There's a link. We are urging people to contact the Judiciary 2 committee and tell them to move the bill. First of all, fix the tweak. I don't remember what the tweak was right off the top of my head here. I'll have to go back and look at it. Make the tweak that is necessary on this legislation. And number 2, don't accept any watering down amendments.
Yes.
Okay. That is so often the case. Legislation starts to move. The legislators get a little bit more receptive. They feel the pressure from the grassroots. There's this sense of inevitability that sometimes takes over a General Assembly. We want that. That's a good thing. But what the gun grabbers do to try to throw up walls to slow this down as they try to come in there to these committees, and then they offer seemingly innocent amendments that totally gut and destroy the entire purpose of the bill. We can't let that happen. It's happened before. Rob and I have seen it time and time again in states all across this beautiful land. And we don't want it to happen this time around, because if they adopt some bad amendments, chances are the Senate might just say, okay, no problem. We'll pass the House version instead of the Senate version. And we don't want that. So we want both versions to stay clean. Right now, the Senate bill is very clean.
Yes.
And so please click the link and fire off an email to the Judiciary 2 Committee and tell them to clean it and fix it and pass it without any watering down amendments. Same goes with the Judiciary Committee over on the Senate chamber, right, Rob? Senate Bill 50?
Yes.
Yeah. They're still.
It's not there yet, but we anticipate that's where they will send it.
Rules Committee.
Yes, and Rules Committee. Yeah. We need to get out of Rules Committee first.
Yep. And like Rob said, the clock is ticking.
Yep.
The clock is ticking. One thing we haven't talked about yet, which is like the whole determining factor here, is the fact that the House Republicans lost the one seat that they needed to be able to override Governor Stein's vetoes at will. So what's going to have to happen here is they're going to have to get these bills passed, or get one of these bills passed all the way sent to the governor, where Governor Stein will very likely veto the bill. If he has half a brain, he won't veto the bill. He'll just let it go into law and not go out and try to appease the radical left. And he'll just run to the moderate middle and let it pass. But likely that won't happen. He will likely veto it. So at that point, the bill has to come back to the Senate, which is why at the end of the day, I think the Senate bill should be the one that passes, so that once it passes the House and gets sent to the governor, when he vetoes it, it goes right back to the Senate chamber. They can veto override it there because the Senate Republicans still have a veto-proof majority. They can send it over to the House, and then that's when the political mechanics come into work. You see, we need one Democrat to be either sick or excused or absent for some reason, stuck in the bathrooms or stuck in the elevators at the office building there. I've heard some legislators talk about corralling about 4 or 5 Democrats in an elevator and then accidentally break. No, I'm just kidding. But that's what might have to happen here, because quite frankly, they wasted the opportunity that they had last year when they had veto-proof majorities. That's where we need to get, and we can't do that if Senate Bill 50 is still sitting in the Senate Rules Committee. So with this video, in addition to taking action on House Bill 5, we're encouraging everybody to take action immediately on pressuring and demanding that the Senate Rules Committee pass Senate Bill 50 in addition. Okay.
Yes.
And again, that's brings us right back to Phil Berger. He's a joint sponsor. He's a co-sponsor on the bill. And there's no reason why we're just going to sit on these bills and let the clock keep ticking. That's why I don't like that. Rob, do you like that?
No, not at all.
Like when you know you got a job to do and you wake up in the morning and you sit there, what's the better course of action? Do you just get up, hammer your coffee, and get right to it? Or do you sit there and lounge around and let half the day waste away and then saunter slowly? No, that's not how anything good gets done.
Right.
So
especially when we're talking about our employees, our state legislators, that we pay for, that work for us, we expect them to do their jobs.
There's so few people that actually have that mentality when you go there and talk to legislators themselves. They think, and Rob, you used to be a legislative aide for several years. You know how it is. I used to be a legislative aide for several years. I know how it is. These legislators get all these lobbyists. These lobbyists call ahead of time and they arrange these meetings and they get to welcome them in, and they all wear their little pin on their lapel. I'm Representative so-and-so, and they all begin to feel like they're like the president or something.
Yeah, can't forget the swanky banquets and everything else and the freebies,
Yeah, the lobbyist dinners and I mean, how many hors d'oeuvre platters can they hoover down in a legislative session? I think
more importantly, how many can you fit in a pocket and take home later?
I know. The cheapskates, they're doing that too. Absolutely they are. Especially the ones who live out in the middle of nowhere and weren't anything before they luckily got elected. They love the hors d'oeuvre platters. But anyway, we want action now. Donald Trump got elected in November. He didn't, when he took the oath of office on January 20, he didn't take a month of vacation. He didn't come out of the gates sauntering. He came out of the gates swinging. That's exactly what gun voters want in Raleigh for the first time in a long time, but they're not getting it so far. And that's why we're asking you all to take action now on permitless carry. So
yeah, please do that. And here's another thing to keep in mind. I mean, if permitless carry were to pass tomorrow, North Carolina would be the 30th state. Is that right, Chris?
Number 30,
which is just absolutely abysmal. What is that? The 40%, 40th percentile. I mean, that's an embarrassment.
Half of the states. I mean,
that's an embarrassment. Yeah. So we're dragging behind. I mean, South Carolina beat us, Tennessee beat us. We've got to get our, and we did have Republican supermajorities for a while, and we're nearly there now. There's no excuse why they shouldn't be passing this.
None at all. So put the pressure on them, folks.
Yeah.
Don't let them talk down to you. Don't let them say stuff like, now's not the right time and blah, 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 blah. No, the right time was 15 years ago. The very least they can do is take action right now.
That's right.
So please send those emails. Click both of them if you can, and send those emails off right away. The second thing, and this is the great thing we wanted to tell you about today, is we have been working with State Representative Brian Echevarria. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He says it, the way he says it is just fantastic. I butcher it. But this guy right here, Brian Echevarria, is the proud bill sponsor for the North Carolina Firearms Coalition Second Amendment Protection Act. Rob, I love permitless carry, don't get me wrong. But when I think about SAPA, as we call it here at NCFC, the Second Amendment Protection Act, this bill gets me going because for the simple reason that is so forward facing. It's looking down the road into the future at these tyrant wannabes who want to control Washington, D.C. and the White House. And it basically raises a giant middle finger to their tyrannical government gun control plans and says, ain't going to do it here. So, Rob, you want to look up how many law enforcement officers there are in the state of North Carolina? That's a number I don't have at the top of my head, but it's going to be a big number. I'm going to illustrate to you guys the power of the Second Amendment Protection Act. Simply put in very basic terms, the Second Amendment Protection Act prevents North Carolina law enforcement from ever being used to enforce federal gun control laws that are passed by Congress, executive orders that are issued by any president, or agency rule changes, for example, like the ATF did with their unconstitutional pistol brace ban or their redefining of what a firearms dealer is. Rob, you got that number roughly?
Yeah, it's roughly everything. What I'm finding is North Carolina's got roughly 20,500 law enforcement and sheriff deputies.
That tracks about right. So here's why SAPA is so powerful, ladies and gentlemen. In the ATF, which I think should be disbanded and abolished and eliminated as a federal lawless agency, it's an unconstitutional agency. They have roughly 5,500 enforcement officer agents in the whole department. In the whole agency, roughly 5,500. Roughly 3,500 of that 5,500 are actual enforcement officers. In other words, there's roughly 3,500 federal law enforcement officers tasked with enforcing federal gun laws nationwide. Meanwhile, the state of North Carolina itself has roughly 20,500 officers to enforce the laws of the state of North Carolina. This is what our founding fathers were so brilliant about. They did not want federal government to have broad police powers because they knew if they did, that central government, that federal government would get so big, it would just totally trample out the states in their entirety. And it would just be United States of America. And the founding fathers knew that, so they made it so that in order for there to be broad federal law enforcement, that these federal agencies would have to go to the states and ask for their cooperation. SAPA says, no, We're not going to be in the business of enforcing that stuff anymore. We're going to enforce the laws of North Carolina that North Carolinians elect us to pass, that are enforced by law enforcement officers that North Carolina taxpayers pay for. It's a beautiful system of checks and balances that simply says, we believe you radical lefties. When people like Beto O'Rourke stand up there and say, hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15s. Remember when Joe Biden was standing in the Rose Garden saying, ban assault weapons. We believe them. Don't we, Rob? You and I believe them.
Yeah,
so does Brian Echevarria here.
Yep.
We believe them when they tell us that they want to ban firearms. And firearms, according to the Second Amendment, is our check and balance on tyrannical government. So the SAPA law is by Echevarria here is very simple. It says we are not going to allow you to use our law enforcement resources anymore to enforce your federal gun control laws. We're going to enforce North Carolina laws. And it's just beautiful. Rob, is it going to hold up in federal court?
Oh, yeah, I think 100%. And we have worked on this legislation. How long have we been working on this, Chris? For years now, actually.
Since 2020, really.
Yeah, really fine tuning this bill. We have been ears to the ground, paying attention to all the court cases, especially out of Missouri. We learned a lot.
We helped. Yeah, we helped State Representative Jared Taylor and State Senator Eric Burleson passed SAPA in Missouri in 2021. It was the first state to pass it. Yep. I've been involved with the federal court case there this entire time. All of the lessons that we learned in the process of passing in Missouri have been incorporated into the bill now that Representative Echevarria is introducing. So it's really a beautiful, elegant piece of legislation that does so much to protect our Second Amendment freedoms in North Carolina for generations to come. A lot of times, people don't know why they're doing what they're doing. Rob, you and I both have kids.
Yep.
We want to pass on these freedoms to our kids and our grandkids. And this is one of the best ways we know how to look into the future and know that tyrants are always going to try to pass tyranny. And knowing that this
tyrants
is the best
tyranny,
thing. What's that?
I said tyrants love tyranny. What?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And knowing that they are, and there's nothing new under the sun, that these people will, we may be in a reprieve right now under President Trump, but they will come back. The private ownership of guns in America is the major obstacle and roadblock that they have to implementing full-blown communism or trying to grab massive amounts of power at some point down the road. This is what we can do as a state to tell the feds to go pound sand with their gun control agenda. And it's an amazing piece of legislation. We want North Carolina to be the second state to pass it. We're working on it right now in Pennsylvania. We're working on it right now in Tennessee. We're working on it right now in Ohio. There's a bunch of other states that are working on it right now. I think we can make it happen here in North Carolina simply because it's not a straight up gun bill. It's just not.
Yeah.
It's a 10th Amendment bill that says we're just going to withdraw our resources from that kind of enforcement. And it's beautiful. It also has Supreme Court precedent. There's all kinds of precedent backing this SAPA bill in the United States Supreme Court, going back all the way to 1842, I think it was, in Prigg versus Pennsylvania with the Anti-Fugitive Slave Act. Yep. A lot of history here. It's built on a rock solid foundation, and we want to pass it. And so does Representative Echevarria.
Yeah. And Chris, what about those, because we've been getting some comments here from folks that are saying, why now with President Trump in office? Do you want to address that maybe for a minute?
Yeah. Well, and the reason why they're saying stuff like that is because they think that there's no threat involved. There's no threat coming from D.C. anymore. Trump is in the White House. Republicans control Congress. Why do we have to worry? Don't we have a break here? No, that's the point. We want, when Missouri passed it in 2021, the Biden Department of Injustice's lawyers immediately stepped in and sued the state of Missouri. And now that law is still tied up in federal court. We want to get more states to pass it right now during the Trump administration years when when the Department of Justice is controlled by Pam Bondi or Kash Patel or these guys that are not going to sue the state of North Carolina, that are going to let this 10th Amendment-based bill stay on the books, that will establish precedent, and that'll make it much harder for any future anti-gun administration to come back and try to sue the state of North Carolina to get the legislation or the law struck down.
Yeah.
We want it now for that precedent and the protections that will provide going forward.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing and what I think you folks at home should take into consideration is, it almost sounds like we need to, it's more important to pass this bill right now than it is to wait until the next Democrat gets elected president.
For sure.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we have a time window here when it's absolutely the most advantageous to pass Representative Echevarria's Second Amendment Protection Act. And I got to tell you, this guy is hot to trot. He's brand new. He's fresh. He's like, let's go get him. Let's not spend the next 15 years grinding away. We need to put wins up on the board. This guy understands that, and he wants to fight. And that's exactly the kind of attitude that we have here at the North Carolina Firearms Coalition.
Yes.
Also, I've asked you guys to take action on House Bill 5. Thank you for doing that. I've asked you to take action on Senate Bill 50. Thank you for doing that. Now I'm going to ask you to do one last thing, maybe not the last thing, but the second to last. Please fire off an email to your state representatives and ask them to co-sponsor Representative Brian Echevarria's Second Amendment Protection Act. The link makes it very easy for you guys. All you have to do is fill in your address, and it will link you right to it. Will send the email straight to your state representative, urging them to get on board with this legislation. I've already met with a bunch of legislators there in Raleigh. They are very excited about the idea of this, and now we just got to start cranking up the grassroots back home, you guys, so that they're hearing from you as well as from me and from Echevarria and from the team here at the North Carolina Firearms Coalition. So that's the action sequence that we're asking you guys to take right now. What else, Rob? What am I missing?
I mean, I think that's it. I'm sure, maybe there's maybe something minor, but I think that's the main thing. And we have to get the ball rolling on these bills, all three, because we've got this crossover deadline that has to be passed by May the 8th. So to keep these bills alive, and so we have got to hit the ground.
Like you said, we don't want to just keep them alive.
Exactly, we got to keep it going.
Yeah, passed.
Exactly, we got to get this all the way done. Way done.
Not messing around. So. Folks, that's the update for you. I hope you guys learned a lot here, and I hope you guys will take action. Most importantly, if you take action, what you're going to see after the petition has been submitted or after the email has been sent, you will oftentimes be redirected to a donate page. If you guys can, and I understand that not all of you can, if you can chip in $5, $50, $100, doesn't matter. We are mobilizing people in every part of the state to get involved in this, to start fighting with us, to start taking action. Because one thing I hear over and over, we hear from these legislators all the time, the radical left, these red shirt radical lying commie mommies that are down there at the Capitol all the time, or the state legislative building, with their red Moms Demand Action shirts on. And quite frankly, whenever I see these people, I really doubt that they're moms.
Even dudes, for some reason.
Like old liberal white dudes, right?
Yeah.
That are always wearing their Moms Demand Action shirts. I always look at them, I'm like, your kids are probably absolutely miserable. They probably hate you now that I think about it. So these legislators see them all the time. The very bare minimum that we need to be doing as a gun rights community is making sure that these legislators who work for us are hearing from us about the direction we want them to go and the actions we want them to take. So please click these links, take action, fire off those emails, and then chip in whatever donations you can afford. And let's get this legislation done.